Hi, it's Grant again, and I'm here to continue answering many of your questions. As I've said in the last number of videos, I really enjoy this. It's been a great opportunity to talk about the the different questions that you really have and try to give you my thinking, my feeling, and really just speak freely without having some kind of script or anything like that. That's different for me. I'm not always comfortable making these videos, and this way I can just speak to you just as I would speak to any of my clients. And I find it really helpful. So let's go through some more questions that you guys have, and I'll just answer them the best way I can. Should we get started? Here's a great question. How can I learn phrases that native speakers actually use? And I think that's what people want to do. You study a lot of English, but you want to use phrases that people actually use, as in my case, a Native American speaker. So I'd say three things. First, listen to real conversations to find these phrases. And then second, write down and copy these phrases. And third, practice with AI so that you can use these phrases in your own context. And by putting all that together, it really works. You know, textbooks, they often teach phrases that nobody really says. And to me, the best way to learn real phrases is by listening to podcasts or listening to meetings, Netflix series or YouTube. And when you listen, you're going to hear these phrases. Write them down because you're going to hear them many times. And then you can then practice these things. You go to AI and you try to figure out what these things are and how you could use them in your own life or your own business. And that's the key. And I'll get into that in a minute. So let's go into detail here a little bit about my answer. So listen to real conversations. I think that's really important where you're listening to real conversations. You're not going through some textbooks or you're, the 500 most real phrases list or something. Just listen to conversations because it really works. Where do these conversations come from? Well, whatever you're interested in English. Are you interested in some podcasts? Are you interested in movies? Are you interested in songs? Wherever it is, just listen to real conversations. And I find it really helpful where there's an actual conversation, like a podcast. Typically, there's a host of a podcast and then somebody that they're interviewing, some kind of guest. And there's a conversation between them. And then you get just real, authentic conversation. And people use normal phrases at that point that they would normally use as they're talking. Because it's just a conversation. It's two people talking, two people speaking English naturally. And you'll find lots and lots of phrases in there. Same thing with movies or Netflix series, as an example. Lots of conversation, lots of really interesting phrases. Find the ones that you really like, and that's what's key. So what I said was to write these down, but first you need to find the ones you really like and find them from just natural sources like that. And write them down, copy them. And make sure you copy them down the right way and make a list of these things. And you're going to find that you see these phrases then more and more and more. But find ones that really make sense to you. Like, oh, I like the sound of that thing. I liked how they used it in their own sentence. And somehow you react to it in a positive way. You're like, yeah, I like that. Write that down and make a list of these things. Because the last step here, I think, is super important. And now we have this ability using AI to take these phrases and find a way so that they can relate to your own situation, and it works really, really well. Let me give you an example. So let's say you found a phrase that you heard in some conversation or on a Netflix series. Let's take a great phrase like, right up my alley. You know, this video is right up my alley. And it means, this is something you really enjoy. You can relate to. This is great. This is something I'm really excited about. I want this kind of thing. That's what it means. So the first step then is to listen for it. You heard right up my alley. And you kind of liked how it was used in some TV series. You write it down. And after you write it down, you could use, I would go to ChatGPT or some other AI tool, and you could write down a prompt like this, or you could say this. And something simple, just like this, explain the phrase, right up my alley, in simple English. Then give me 5 example sentences using it in business situations like meetings, emails, or small talk. If you just use that as your prompt, you're going to get 5 great examples, and it really works well. Or if you want something more specific, and for some reason you don't need them in business situations, or you need them more specifically, like I'm a IT engineer, so give it to me in IT engineering meetings and emails or small talk, you're going to get really great examples. Then you need to say them. Say all those example sentences out loud. Use this phrase many times, right up my alley. Then create your own sentence, which is part of my deep learning vocabulary method, where you can create your own sentence and say, wow, studying English, right up my alley. I love it. Is that what you say? I hope you do. All right. Does that make sense? Let's go on to the next question. See how we do here. Here's our next question, and it's kind of related to the first question. Should I learn words from books or from conversations? I feel pretty strongly about this, but books, I guess I'd say books help build your language base, your vocabulary base, but conversations show how people really use English. In this case, how they really use words. And to me, it's way more important. So you need to use both. You need to have a great foundation, but you really need to focus on how people are using these words in their speaking. And to me, that's what's really important. Books are great for building a foundation of vocabulary, like grammar and vocabulary and structure, but I think the real learning happens in conversation, because you hear how people actually use words. And the best method is to use both of these, learn from a book and then bring it into a conversation. And always make speaking your focus, because that's what builds confidence, is to be able to use these words while you're speaking. So if we go through this talking about books, books are great. And if you're not reading in English, I really recommend that you do read in English. And I've said this before a number of times, but when you do read a book in English, try to read it out loud. Feel the words come out of your mouth. See how people are using these words. Really feel them. Say them, because if you never say the words, you'll never use them. You can learn and learn and learn and learn, but you got to speak. So reading a book out loud and really feeling it, it's slow and it can be a little painful, but it works great. So try that. That's what I would really use books for. And then you can find great words in these books and everything else. But to me, conversations are the things that really show how people use words. And like I addressed earlier, listening to conversations through podcasts or TV series or movies, that's where it really shows how people are using words. And again, it's so incredibly important that you're finding how people use words, because that's what's needed. And if you want to find, more ways of how to use words, then use your whatever your preference is for using AI, and find the AI that you like, and see how you can use these words in your own situation. And then it starts to really make sense, really starts to resonate with you. And that's what I think is super important. So that's what I would do. So in this case, should I learn words from books or conversations? Do both. Read a lot. Read a lot in English. And if you haven't done it, try it. It's going to be painful at the beginning, but try it. Find these words and then turn it into how you can use these words in speaking by using AI, and even making that list and using these words. Asking AI, how can I use this in my situation? I'm an accountant. How can I use these words? And it really works well. It gives you great examples, especially if you say, how can I say these words in my conversations at work? And the more you say them, the more you practice, the easier all of this is. All right? So give that a try. See what happens. Let's go to our, I think this will probably be our last question. People are asking about presentations, and I do a huge amount of presentation work with my clients. But the question was, how do I end my presentation smoothly? Well, I'm a big believer that you give your conclusion to your presentation right away, right at the top. Give your conclusion. Say it. Here's my conclusion. You don't say it that way, but you give the people in the audience your conclusion first. Then they know what you're going to talk about. And once you've done that, then it's already out there. So by the time it's time for your normal conclusion, you can do a few different things. You can signal that you're ending this presentation and give that signal really clearly. Or you can summarize your key points quickly, and that shows that there's the end coming. And of course, thanking your audience confidently, giving some kind of summary statement is really nice, and it's just smooth and clean. As I said, I do a lot of coaching for presentations, and the whole idea here of giving your conclusion at the beginning of your presentation is really important, because you're going to give the conclusion right away. And then you can talk about all the reasons and examples and data and things that support that conclusion during your presentation. And you can go back and say that conclusion 3, 4, 5 times. Then people will remember your conclusion. And that's really, really important because it just makes it easy. And by the time you get to your traditional end or conclusion, you're going to say it again. And it's a really nice way to summarize how you do this. So maybe your conclusion is something, and you've got 3 big points that support that conclusion. I'll show you how you can use that really well. So to get to the end of your talk, if you want to signal the end is coming, you say something like, my message today was to make sure that you speak confidently and you use these words. And as I talked about earlier, I gave you 3 reasons why. I gave you the first reason, you go into detail about that. You go into the second reason, you give a little summary about that, and you go into the last reason. Just do that quickly. Don't go into so much detail about it, just summarize it. But you gave a message and you summarize those 3 things. And it works beautifully. It really does. And finally, of course, you want to thank your audience. You're giving this presentation not for you. You're giving it for your audience. And so it's a really nice, smooth way. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this great message with you today. I feel strongly that it's a message that we all need and that we can use as we move forward. I really encourage you to give this a try. Give them something to do with this message, and it works beautifully. All right? So, as I finish this, I thank you for watching again. I really appreciate it. Keep sending in those great questions. I love them. We have such a long list. And I'll keep trying to answer these for you. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you very soon. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share your comments, and I also invite you to learn your Business English Confidence Score. You'll find the link in the description below this video.